and welcome to our first anniversary episode special. I'm Eamonn. I'm here with Josh. Hi, Josh.
Hello, Haven. Look, world, a whole year.
A whole year, and we're full of balloons. We're full of hot air. We are. Look, it's upside down now.
They said it couldn't be done. They even said it shouldn't be done.
They
but
said
you know
it shouldn't be done
said?
before they said it could have been done. But yes, they said that it shouldn't have been done. And yet we've reached 46 episodes in one whole year. How cool is that? 46 episodes. That's so cool. That's so cool. Are you feeling old?
I am, in the words of Michael McKean, totally chuffed.
I have a very special little treat for people to watch just in a little while. But just to say that as I was going through some of the footage over the last year, I've just seen myself slowly age. And
But
the tiredness.
But I haven't changed at all, have
You
I?
haven't changed a bit. It's literally
Not a
like
bit.
it's like I could just put an overlay over you and you just match perfectly. You're just like two sheets of acetate that are exactly the same.
Gray just stays. That's the rhyme for you.
There you go. It's just I'm just noticeably older. And also, Josh, I got you a little virtual present. Here we go. Let's see what this shows. I got you a virtual present. It says you're not old, as in our
Put it
podcast,
closer.
Our podcast is not. Oh my god. Okay, right. Hold on. I have to leave it there. If it covers my face, then there we go. It just says you're not old. You're just ripe. just like the banana. Just a little callback to Catalan's banana.
Just
banana.
like me every morning before my shower. I'm just ripe and ready to go.
I know. Well, let's hope we'll get 2 bananas next year for our 2nd anniversary.
Catalan, we need some sponsorship.
Catalan, maybe he might sponsor us.
He's been mentioned like 1 in 10 shows here.
He owes us. He's got plenty of coverage. But let's leave him alone and out of the sight today, and let's find out what's coming up on today's show. So, Josh, bring us through the stories.
This week, we're coming full circle on many things. Semple loses copyright case to Klein Estate. Wah, wah, wah.
Poor Semple.
The first art oops of the year. A trashed Warhol. Believe that or not.
Mm-hmm.
A cool one. When I saw this, I was amazed. Night on Mars. This is really cool. The Buddha jewels up for auction. Not. Actually, there's an update. No, don't cancel us. It's not us. And lastly, Rosa Parks panties. No possessive.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's not her panties.
Plenty of updates on all those stories, as I have gone through lots of research for that. But yes, Josh, I'm interrupting you.
All that, as the balloons go, all that and a brand new guest are up next as we spill the RT.
Yes.
Welcome to episode 46. We made it.
46. And it's not 52, folks, because we like a little break in the middle, so
because we follow UK labor laws and we get 6 weeks off a year. Thank you very
with
much.
Paid leave. It's great.
Paid? Do we have a sponsor? Wait, what?
No. Stop fishing, Josh. Stop fishing. Let's give them this one for free, shall we? We have lots of those stories and updates to those and lots more. But ladies and gentlemen, all those in between, please welcome on our guest for today, the very special, very cool, very artistic Mr. Robert Jackson. Come on down. Hello, Rob.
Hello.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on this, and congratulations on reaching number 46.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Rob, how has it taken 46 episodes to get you onto Spill the RT? That's something that we really don't understand.
Well, I know, but I finally got here, so thank you for inviting me.
But from my credit, it took one message. Did it?
It was a bit of a good push from Josh, so he did a good job.
And what was about the pushing that I did?
It was 2 sentences. I got it done. I always get it done. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't know, Rob is one of our painters in Nua Collective. So it's important that we always feature the people who are helping us make these productions go. And
Absolutely.
Rob has good things coming soon. So we wanted him on. So we'll get back to that later.
He really does. And he has helped us immensely throughout the life span of Nua Collective, so we thank him for that.
Well, it's been fun, so thank you.
There's that opportunity to say thank you to you, Rob. So before we get on with our stories today, I have a little special presentation to supply with you all. So let's have a little look at 1 year of Spill the RT. Awesome. Standing by. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Recording in progress.
Due to my being recorded, I refuse.
Recording in progress.
Standing by.
Oh my god, you guys! Recording in progress. Recording in progress. Josh, that's my line.
It's our line now.
Recording in progress. We're moving into swiftly along. That's my word.
Do you want a sign of civilization collapse?
It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Look,
Breaking news, folks.
Fear of missing art.
yes,
Like the chutzpah here is just impressive.
they did. Hey.
In the birds.
And that tea is spilled. And that tea is spilled. It is spilled. And there you go. 46
And again-
episodes of Spill the RT.
For context, so people know, we use a backup system for our audio. And when we
Yes.
kick that on, it says recording in progress. And so that's
It-
why.
Yeah, it's a bit of a, like an in joke, but I think it's still funny on its own. Surely, isn't it funny, people? No? Okay, rap silent.
It's wonderful. Do I get to say it, or am I allowed to say it?
You can, of course. Give us your recording in progress.
Recording in progress.
There
Excellent.
you go.
Brilliant, brilliant.
All
It's-
you're giving us is how we're going to create our next set of B-roll specials.
Well,
for-
yeah, in a year time. Exactly.
That's-
Year's time.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
you guys
Shoot.
haven't aged at all, so you look fantastic.
I beg to differ, but sure, absolutely, absolutely. There's lots of grey under here as a result of Spill the RT, but maybe that's just the age happening. It's all
Some
down
of
here.
us-
It's all down here for Josh.
Some of us haven't changed one bit.
No. Well, look, that is 46 1 year of Spill the RT episodes, and like again, just taking this opportunity to thank all of our guests that have joined us over the last
Yes,
year.
100%.
We really appreciate that, and as you can see, there's a whole load more to talk about. So, folks, if you do want to come on board and be a guest of Spill the RT, we are hoping to make it a full year once again for year 2 of Spill the RT. So get in touch with us at hello@newmancollective.com. So, Josh, will we get on with the show?
We get on with the show, and
Great.
I guess we go off to France, perhaps. I think that's where this actual lawsuit took place. So we've talked about Stuart Semple before.
Mm-hmm.
He is like God in my mind in terms of culture jamming and using art in order to like poke fun at the art world and also bring people into the art world who don't normally consider themselves part of it, right? Like
Mhm.
he's really good at this. But apparently he kind of stepped into it by using the Klein name by putting together a Klein Blue. Had he called it something else other than the name of Klein, he would have been fine. But he didn't do this. And so some backstory here. I'm sure Rob knows this, right? Yves Klein created a very specific chemical composition of a very particular blue, and actually you can like get Klein tables. They're worth millions of dollars of nothing but the blue pigment itself. Right. And so Stewart's known for poking fun at the art world, and he did so by making Klein Blue available, but he used the name Klein in calling it Klein Blue. And so he got nailed by a French court and a fine. This is really nothing. It's like $20,000. It's nothing. 18,000 pounds.
Yeah,
or
it was nominal. But I also feel like maybe this should be more looked at in a different way. Is it not like a really cool nod to Yves Klein to say I'm honoring him and his color?
Okay, but all the artists, so you may have seen this on social media, folks, that the artists have painted their hands blue
Yes.
based on Semple's request to do this. It's kind of cult-like. The leader said, paint your hand blue, and then people did. It's kind of strange. But
I almost did it
nonetheless,
Yeah, I was gonna do it for the show, and then I was like, that would have taken ages to just get off. And I hadn't any poster paint. I'd only oil paint, so it was going to be messy, and I'd be just peeling it off my hands for the next week. So
that's something I read about it too. It's something interesting about Semple's version that it's non-toxic, whereas Klein's one is apparently really bad for you. So painting your hands with Semple's version, you're going to be okay, really. And I think he got in trouble too for the fact that he used that photograph as the selling point, didn't he? He got in trouble for kind of linking not just the blue in the name, but also utilizing the picture and how it's perceived to be very similar to what Klein did as well too.
But you can argue that there's artistic license in terms of the reuse part of that, right? But the direct use of the name was what the court basically said you can't do. So what did Stempel do? He's like, well, A, I didn't know about this court case in the first place. Thanks for letting me know. But B, I'm going to appeal this. And C, I'll just change the name in the meantime. So you can, it's not, all these artists have their hands out like this with the blue, as if the blue is going away.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going away is the limited supply of the original bottles with the name on it. The blue is still available, right? Like,
go on, Rob.
Oh, I just think the remarkable thing for both parties as well is the publicity they're both getting. I mean, the sort of Yves Klein Estate, they're going to see a sudden sort of bump up in sales at the auction houses. So it's quite wise in both aspects to sort of push this out there, and
maybe that's why
keep it rolling.
Maybe that's why they only got certain, like that small amount of money then, as a result of the fact
I
that
don't
they're both
think
going to
so.
benefit from it. You reckon?
I don't think so. No. I think Stewart, of course, spun it into as much publicity he could get because he's well aware that controversy is how you get eyeballs, right? That's literally, and to his credit, right? He doesn't sell his stuff super expensive. It's not cheap in comparison, right? But he could be gouging people based on each of these social media spikes. He doesn't do that. He just tries to get his production costs back. And some of this stuff does absolutely take years and years of time to develop. So I'm not against any of that, right? But the nominal here is about the name and the fact that it was done in the French court, and like this had all these convoluted copyright law kind of things, right? So I think the Klein Estate was pissed that their name was used because because this is a difficult actual chemical composition. Like what Klein actually copyrighted was a very specific chemical solution that produces this particular blue, and that's why it's toxic. The Klein tables have to be sealed. It's not just to keep people from playing around with the pigment. It's that if you inhale it, you will get cancer and die. Right, and
whoa, that's intense. Well, I mean, I sit down playing with my paints and the tinners, and I'm loving the smell. And I'm kind of like, oh yeah, bringing on that, like that's brilliant. But
don't do that with oil paints because you can still die from certain oil paints today. Cadmiums will kill you today.
I love a cadmium. I love a cadmium.
Well, I must say, one of my favorite oranges I have has cadmium and a tiny little bit of lead in it. So it's not very good for you, but it's remarkably good at coating things, you know?
And it looks pretty.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
Gloves. Wear
exactly.
Your gloves.
Exactly. Wear gloves.
I know. You can't wear gloves because you need to get the feel of the brush. You need to have the full control over it. And it's Rob, you work in such miniature scale. You have to be able to, like, gloves.
I might just be saying that I'm wearing gloves, just for the benefit of this. Really.
Of course.
No, but he's painting with brushes. I sometimes paint with fingers.
Yeah.
Right. And so in that situation,
absolutely, I love smudging, especially with oil paints. You love to do a bit of smudge with the fingering.
Maybe that explains how you've aged, though, bro.
It is interesting. It is interesting the idea of the name of Yves Klein though taking an effect, because it's happened in Dundee recently. There's a glasses company called Specs Pistols, and it's done in the icon and the writing of Sex Pistols. They've become very well known, and recently the estate of the Sex Pistols has got in touch saying you must change your name. And similarly, there was a bar in Dundee called Lennon's Bar with a picture of John Lennon on the top. And now it's become something else completely because the estate of Yoko Ono got in touch and say you can't utilize this name. So the power of these estates can, they're far-reaching things, and they can even reach sort of small cities in Scotland.
Well, it's not the power of estates; it's the power of the copyright. We had someone on recently who was sued by blank brick company. I'm not supposed to say their name.
Poor Debbie. Poor Debbie had a terrible time.
But the point is, like, she got nailed because she was using the name as part of how she was selling. If she had used the generic, the whole point of generics is use the generic and it belongs to all of us. But they copyright their actual name, and then that's what you get nailed for.
You know these estates have got alerts across all of their media for when there's even the slightest recognition to their words used. So like, and especially when like they're living on their estates, like it was like his nephew, Yves Klein's nephew or something, or son or something, that is the beneficiary of this money. So it's like he's probably ain't doing nothing else. So he's like, bring me in the money in whatever way I can by just suing everybody who uses the name.
Look, preservation of IP is what the 21st century is all about. right?
Mhm.
Like the 20th century was about physical things. The 21st century has evolved into IP. It's about who controls ownership of the ideas. And in many cases, the idea itself is linked to a name. If you own the name, you get to own the idea as well.
Great.
Tea is spilled.
That tea is spilled. Bye bye, Anish Kapoor. Okay, moving swiftly along.
Uh-oh. You invoked he who shall not be named.
Sorry.
Moving on. This
Oopsie.
is to, I guess, in the Netherlands. What a shock. Another Dutch municipality had a problem. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm sorry, the Netherlands, but we are covering you yet again.
We are.
So the town or the municipality of Maashorst apparently had 40 or 50 odd various kinds of collectible artworks, including a Warhol print that they somehow managed to trash. This is our art oops of the year, folks.
Oops the daisies. Oops the daisies.
Apparently, they took all this stuff off the walls in preparation of like painting, and they put them into rubbish bins.
Yeah.
I can think of a lot of ways to preserve artwork. It doesn't involve putting it into a trash can for those Americans in the audience. That's what they did.
I'm really hoping that somebody sort of noticed this thing and sort of pocketed it, and it's kind of hanging up in their kitchen or something.
A lot of people
funny
are
you
saying
mention that, Rob, because that's literally what the town people said who like found out about this, like on their council or whatever. It's like, well, this is really bad. Obviously, this was a screw up. We certainly hope someone saw this and basically took it home, because otherwise it's all gone. And the weird thing about this story is, what was weird to me, it wasn't just this, it was that the valuation of what disappeared could be as low as 20,000 or as high as 50,000 just for the Warhol itself. No one apparently can even agree on the value of what this. The Dutch, I'm sorry, but you know,
and
maybe
were they
you're
like
known
just
for,
in bad frames or something that they saw that this must be crap? We need to put it into the bin.
How do you not recognize a Warhol? To me, it goes
Well,
back to the,
I mean, maybe he was in a really good frame, and somebody wanted the frame for their own artwork, so they ripped the Warhol out.
That makes sense.
But Warhols are signed. It goes back to this idea of the power of the signature, right? We've talked about this before. Once you put a signature on something, wow, now it has value.
Okay,
so,
yes. However, in the municipal districts of some environments across the world, there are individuals who wouldn't have any understanding of art whatsoever, would be quite ignorant towards that sort of world.
And also,
like, sure, it's Andy Warhol. Like, you can get an Andy Warhol signature on a T-shirt, and it's not going to make, like, how do you know it's legitimate or not?
But this is 4 dozen pieces of art. Even if you don't recognize the Warhol as the Warhol, I'm totally with you, right? I'm not saying, a person who's like taking care of the trash should know fine art. Although I think it's also the flip side, and you can say they might know fine art as much as anybody else. Nonetheless, this is 50 pieces of art. I don't care who you are, right? This takes up a sizable amount of space. These are each prints, even if they're small, A5, A6, whatever, right? These are not giant things. I get that. They're just posters. But still, if you found 50 posters and you're like, oh, maybe someone should like verify this should be thrown away. That's all I'm saying. Because you know you're in the midst of construction. It's not like a random thing, like you're just randomly collecting garbage.
Yeah.
They know they're in the process of rehabbing this place. And this stuff gets not set aside, but actually put in the trash from to begin with. It's just, the whole thing is weird and strange. I don't know.
Well, the mice of the people in Netherlands now, they have a lovely little home to lie under. You know, a little blanket. They have a little blanket.
A great art collection.
Yeah, a really great art collection. They can decorate their homes. Be very fab. Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly, but
that
value.
That tea is built. That tea is built. And I'm off on a trip to the Netherlands. See ya. Bye. Right. Now, moving on to our next story. We're going to the sky.
We go to the skies. I thought this one was really cool. So everyone knows that we have rovers on Mars, right? And many of the shots that we've seen from there have been during daytime, right? Or Mars daytime, which means it's these browns, these sepias, these reds. This I thought was really cool because it's a shot of the night sky from Mars. And it's a completely different view of the sky, but very similar at the same time. I'll just let it run here for a second.
Yeah. A little look at the night sky with the stars shining bright from the Mars rover. They are saying that it was kind of pieced together. Obviously, it's not one continuous loop, so there's like a little bit.
Well, I have some tea to spill on this one here.
Of course you do.
Go for it.
Great.
That it was not real, and it's an amalgamation of a daytime shot of a selfie of the rover, and actually, according to NASA scientists, the sky photograph they believe was taken from Earth.
Ah.
And
so it's a collage.
It's a collage. It's a stitch up, really. And somebody's
It's a
created this
mashup,
beautiful video,
That's
which is
funny.
really interesting. Because my colleague is into astrophotography. He takes these beautiful photographs of the sky, and he's got me into a little bit of it as well too, just from his garden. And it's really interesting with astrophotography that you must take a series of section shots, so a series of shots, maybe 50 shots at 10 seconds per exposure, and then you stack them in a program together. And that sort of brings up the emanation of light. That causes that glowing effect that we see there of the Milky Way and things like that. And so this is an interesting shot that essentially, from what I read, has tricked everybody and is just a composite, this sort of fake that's been constructed. It's been fed out to the internet. It looks beautiful and amazing, but there's no true way that the Mars cameras can actually pick that data up, which is really and I'm sorry to kill the idea of it, Josh, because you sent it to me and I thought it was beautiful, but then looking further at it,
it's not the first time we've been stung. See
that's
that?
that's just really annoying. Thank you.
And there's a further NASA sort of investigation. They did some photographs of the sky from the rover, and they say that quite often there's too much dust in the atmosphere to even see the night. So there is sort of pollution there, but it's sort of self-polluting place.
And I had a whole thing lined up to talk about how this was reflecting a few weeks ago.
Maybe what I read was wrong.
No,
maybe what I read was wrong.
Totally right. There was a story a few weeks ago that there was pictures taken of the night sky. I think it was Australia, was it, Josh?
From Australia.
And it was like capturing all the satellite grids, and it was like, oh, finally we can get a perspective of what the sky really looks like from its beautiful glory, and it's only just a sexy sky that's taken from AI, which is just wonderful. So thanks very much, NASA, for ruining my dreams. You're wonderful. Once again, fooled by technology.
Happy anniversary! Nah.
Thanks very much. You're very kind. I just don't know. I don't know, but there must be somewhere. Well, there mustn't be. There's probably not now because of the necessary need for satellites. That there's probably no location in the world that we can go to that will just take an uninterrupted image of the sky.
No, that was the whole point of that stuff from a couple weeks ago.
I know. It's just still haunting me. I just can't. I'm upset over it. I'm just upset.
And the truth is, between the satellites and the planes, that's the other part of it, right? Like you might actually be in an area where you could have a fairly decent shot at the sky without satellites, although that's becoming rarer and rarer. But then the planes come through even faster. So like we've polluted the sky in the sense that it's like those scenes of like the interconnected world of Trantor or Coruscant from science fiction. We're not quite there yet, but it's certainly not like it used to look, which would be pure view from most of the world, unfortunately.
It's just upset. It's just upset me. But, okay, I'm going to go get a tissue, and after that, we'll be right back after these messages. See you soon. New Collective, an arts community collective with art artists and art publications, with fresh work, news, and updates added weekly to our online collection at www.newacollective.com. Here you will also find our new journal featuring articles and podcasts, which are also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok, like this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss us. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss us out on spilling the RT in our weekly roundups every Monday. There we go. And now I've lost my button. There we go. So that is our new promo for the first time ever. Eamonn messed that up, but you can't hear that because I've cut it out. So there you go.
Well, you just said you lost your button. That alone was funny.
I lost my button. I've lost my button years ago. Well, 1 year ago, potentially. And now it's completely gone. Josh, you've ruined me. I've turned into this cynical git that lives in London now. And I've got to get some juice just to give myself. I have one set of juice and another set of juice. I'm juiced out.
I think you had too much pre-workout. That's all.
I didn't. This is me without the pre-workout. So, I just need it. I need the fuel. Help me.
Leave a comment below, folks, what you think that Eamonn is on. That's all I can say. Speaking of which, like, share, subscribe, send it 3 friends.
Ding, ding,
Leave
ding,
a comment. Leave a comment. Find us a sponsor. Come on the show.
Yes. Send it to 3 friends. You forgot that one, Josh. That was your.
I
That was
said
your
it. No,
go-to.
I said it. I
Did
said
you?
send it to
Did
three
you?
friends.
I'm
I
just not
always.
with it. I'm just gone. I'm gone. A year on, and I'm gone. That's how it goes.
I win.
You always win, don't you? Okay, moving swiftly into our next story, and
So
yes, I've got a
we
wonderful
go.
title for this.
Oh yeah, what's your title?
My title is Auctioning Buddha's Jewels. And I only realized this only just as we were going through our stories before we came on air, what I really put into the caption. But anyway, tell us more, Josh.
So we go back to 1898 and Uttar Pradesh, which is a part of India for those Americans in the audience who have no idea what we're talking about.
Or the Irish or the English.
Well, I think if you've been part of the British Commonwealth, you're at least aware of the idea of an Indian subcontinent and that there's different areas there, right? Like there's a history there that you know.
Yeah.
Americans, maybe not. Who knows? Nonetheless, back in 1898, they dug up what are considered to be Buddha's jewels, meaning things that were either belonging to the Buddha or that were part of his burial plot, if you will, right? Okay, fast forward, Sotheby's. We're going to auction these things because, of course, this is 2025.
They owe us money too.
Of course, these ended up in private hands, and of course, they got passed down through private hands, and eventually someone's like, I need cash. Sotheby's, come bail my ass out. Update, the sale was called off precisely because, wait, you're trying to sell the Buddha's jewels. Just even say that and step back and go like, what the fuck?
Okay, so give us a religion lesson here, Josh. Are they like the Egyptians, where if you like bury them with gold and jewels and such, that they're going to have something to pay their way into the next life and all that kind of stuff? So
this is where it starts to get weird, right? Because the whole point of Buddhism is to leave behind worldly possessions and connections, right?
Okay.
That's, life is suffering, and the more that you give into that, the more powerful the pain of life is. And the whole point is to connect with people and not things.
Yes.
To be in the moment with them, not about, that's why I give away plastic, right? Like the whole point is not about the thing, it's the moment that's created. That's the whole point here. So on the one hand, it's like, wait, so the Buddha's jewels doesn't even make sense because the Buddha wouldn't have had jewels because the whole point was not to have jewels. On the other hand, these are considered venerated shrine-like objects because they're connected to the Buddha, right? And so we're talking 2,000 years later. Obviously, the people who worship the Buddha care about worshiping something. This is what humans do. They need something to connect to. They have to have something physical, right? And so this is like you're auctioning religious items that people see as something that is essentially sacrosanct. This shouldn't even be up for a debate in the first place. Rob, you're nodding like you're...
Well, yeah, I totally agree. And so you say that that's been pulled now. They've pulled the idea of the auction. Yeah, that's
at least for now. At least for now.
Yeah.
But there was an ethical quandary.
Well, the reality is it's kind of like as soon as you attach the name to it, it's like they perk up, right? Oh, these aren't just jewels. These aren't just jewels dug up 120 years ago in India that connect back 1,000 years earlier than that. No, these are jewels that are connected to Buddha. And as soon as you have like the copyrighted name.
So should they be in some sort of shrine or potentially like within a cultural institution of some form?
Obviously, that's what the folks who are objecting to this in the first place are saying, that these are religious objects. These are things that are venerated. They shouldn't be available for sale in the first place, right? Like, yank this. Let's have something else to do with this. And I'm sure that's what will end up happening in the end. But the question will be how the money changes hands to make that happen. That will be a follow-up at some point in the future, I imagine.
Interesting.
Right?
If you had $4 million dollars to spend on some jewels, though, would you spend them on these jewels?
Well, I think if you had that money and you were going to buy them, you would think in that case, and you had a conscience, you think you would give them back to whoever deserved to have them, or put them back where they came from, or put them in a local museum or local whatever. You'd hope that whoever is sitting there on the idea of buying these things does have a conscience, but unfortunately, that's not always the way.
Or if you're the person who they're in your possession, you reach out privately to whatever the group is, and you're like, hey, look, I know this is something you want. I'm not necessarily trying to like be exorbitant. Like you could work something out, right?
Yeah.
Like there's always a way.
Absolutely.
Where are they now? Who has them now? Who's selling them?
I imagine they're still in the possession either of Sotheby's or the original person.
I know.
who
I
it
oh
was
yeah.
passed down to.
I get that. But as in like, so who holds them? As far, excuse me, who owns them, or inverted commas owns them?
Well, I mean, the person it's still in their private possession, because so far as I know, the actual like shifting over of possession
And
has not happened.
how did they come to own them?
So what happened was this was dug up in 1898, right? And it was given to, so it wasn't like there was even a sale. This wasn't your typical like art theft from like a dig or something, as happens all the time. This was apparently a legal thing that happened because the Raj was owned by Britain at that point, right? Like this was happening inside of British colonial rule. And so, as happens with many of these colonial era objects, at least at the time, there was no objection made. And it like there was no one's claiming that somehow the person who has this didn't end up in their hands illegitimately or something. It's just now that they're trying to dispense with it. Like there are alternate ways that this could have gone kind of back to where it should have gone.
Interesting.
Right.
Well,
Very interesting.
Namaste
As always,
to that topic. I think that
well,
is spilled.
our point, well, just to finish up, our point about the art auction system is often that it disappears things, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it also allows things to come to light that might not have come to light otherwise because of a certain need of transparency. Because what the art system cares about is provenance. Right? They don't necessarily care about the ethicalness of that provenance, but what's the provenance of how this ended up, right?
True.
And so this is a case of it like bringing to light something, and precisely because of that transparency, they said, big red X, we're not allowing this to happen.
Yeah, that's quite nice, and I guess that's quite nice about the sort of advent of social media. It has its downsides, but then something like that would have been pushed. You could, you can't do this. So there's power within the people to sort of push against stuff like that, which is quite nice.
Yeah, Rosa Parks as we switch over here, Rosa Parks's underwear is a different example of the power of virality. Slightly. Because it actually isn't Rosa Parks's underwear. It's just a picture that kind of looked like Rosa Parks that someone wore.
And that entirely confused me, because like the first read of this that I found was that like they were suggesting that it was Rosa Parks on her underwear, that she this artist or the singer K-pop, what's her name? Somebody from K-pop.
Most people may have heard about this. So the Met Gala is this annual thing. It's a huge thing, right? Like it disrupts everyone's life for like 24 hours, even those who have no idea where the Met is or anything about this. Because it's like everybody who's anybody shows up in New York for the Met. Or actually, DC? I guess it's DC. I don't know. One of the two cities.
It's in America.
It's in America. I'm an American. Even I don't know where this takes place because I actually don't pay attention to this stuff, except it shows up once a year. It's like everyone shows up. We're going to dress up this big thing. I think it's New York. And then boom, apparently Rosa Parks' face was on someone's underwear. Turns out, no, it's a picture of someone's artwork that happens to look a lot like Rosa Parks' face in the first place. And it set off this viral storm of like 48 hours of everybody in the world. Is that Rosa Parks' face on someone's crotch or not? Ta-da.
Ta-da. It's not. It's just a picture of a woman. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that like people just read into things too much because they think, remember, didn't we have something similar to this with Madonna in some of her early episodes where she was kind of trying to wear some material.
Well, but that was a little different because this was not what was claimed to be, right? This was another example.
Yeah, this is somebody seeing something and then diving upon it, which never really was there. Which also, you kind of look at that and maybe, is that part of the spin of the Met? Is this to get more publicity? You just never know with these things. It's amazing.
It always is. It always is.
Well, they're as always, it's about whether it's actual controversy. They want things that keep people interested. Right. And so like if Ben would be like, but Rihanna was wearing this, like the whole point is like, what are people wearing? What are they doing? I personally don't have time for much of this, but obviously the web today is driven by what catches people's eye. It's 24-hour news cycle, 24-hour interest. Yeah. What's going to get people looking on their phone?
Do you know what's important too? You introduced me to the idea of K-pop, so I before this had a listen. So I'm gonna try it again, but it was an interesting experience. So maybe that's a new painting medium. I don't know, paint K-pop. I don't know. Who knows?
K-pop the painting.
Yeah, or K-pop the atmosphere when I'm painting. I don't know. It was quite a strange experience. But
if you watch a K-pop concert, right, the energy there is kind of Beatlesque. It's kind of insane in terms of like how much the performers are giving, but also how much the crowd is giving. Right?
Wow,
It's just
yeah.
it's really
Isn't it very? Aren't they like very boy bandy or kind of like they're like and like it's very like in sync and
Very punchy and
it can be, but it's expanded out to other things. There's like in Japan, there's this like baby metal phenomenon where it's just like people dressed in black versions of like, like the house cup keepers kind of clothing. And they're playing like really fast, really dark metal at the same time. And people are just screaming and enjoying the shit out
and
of this.
that's considered K-pop as well.
Well, it's the way this stuff has expanded in terms of like it's the phenomenon of the way the fan reaction is to what's happening on stage. It's over the top on the fan side. It just becomes insane. And on the flip side, it makes if you join one of these groups and then you become this like idol that people are looking at, that's why they kill themselves. Like they have so much pull that they then can't deal with it. Like humans shouldn't have that many eyeballs on them at all times. It's just weird.
Yeah,
A
well,
K-pop star just suicided a couple of weeks ago. Like the pressure on these folks is insane.
oh god, that went very dark very quickly, Josh.
That's me. I always go dark very quickly.
Oh my goodness.
Well, to lighten it a little bit, I did think that the name of the band that this person played in was called Blackpink, and I thought that the guy Semple missed the trick, that he could have introduced his sort of blackest black dress and his pinkest pink, because he does black is black and pink is pink, white is white.
He's up to black 4.0. Yeah.
Yeah. So that could be an interesting little turn, I suppose.
Yeah. See that, Stuart? Stuart, if you're paying attention to us and you want to sponsor us,
do next year's Met. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. He'd actually just turn up in a paint, like a tin of paint or something, like a domestic tin of paint with blue written on it.
I'm just saying we can do a New Culture hustle, no problem.
New Culture hustle, love it. Yeah.
And see if he wants to get on us for IP use. Hey, Stuart. Blue hand, Stuart.
Yeah, Stuart, we've got like huge amount of followers. Like we've loads of people following us and lots of views.
Tons.
Yeah, come on. You're only going to increase your own followership. Yeah, do it.
Filthy lucre.
Well, let's put that tea on the floor. Let's spill it. And let's move on to Mr. Robert Jackson, who is here in the house today. Welcome again. And can you tell us, Rob, what is it that brings you to make such tiny paintings? Because you're surrounded by them.
I'm surrounded by them. I love them. I find them really quite involving. These little things painted on heavy brass and copper plates. So when even when you hold them when you're painting them, that sort of, I paint clouds a lot. I paint tiny clouds, tiny skies, and when you hold these things when they're painted on copper and brass plates, they have a weight to them that a cloud wouldn't normally have. So a cloud is this light, fluffy object. So the presence of the little tiny objects is really quite pleasant to experience. And I like the idea of making things that people have to get close to and have to get closely involved with when they see them. I'm doing a series of tiny portraits as well too, with similar to what Josh does in mind. With I'm doing a series called the Tiny Portrait Project, where I paint these people at a very small scale, and then after I exhibit them a few times, I just give it to that person. So it's sort of a connecting gift that they've been involved in my project, and they get something in return for helping me out. So I just find that the working on such a small scale is such an involving experience for me, but I think is quite involving for the viewers as well.
Yeah, no, completely.
It's also the juxtaposition of the small and the large, the way you play with stuff, right? And we have other work of yours to show as well. And you seem to always work with like perception of what our eyes are seeing versus what is actually in front of us.
Yeah, I find that I certainly find the interplay between sort of big and little objects quite interesting, quite difficult to deal with sometimes, because not only can you quicker make a series of small paintings, when you get involved in a larger piece, I find that I have to invest the same level of time almost per square centimeter on that piece. And the painting that I have coming up in the RHA, it opens next week. I think on Monday the 26th.
That's
that
this
painting.
This piece
that's
here.
This one here. So that's painted on copper. But it probably took about 8 years, I think, to make it.
Wow.
A long time. So it's a largish copper sheet. It's about 70 by 80 centimeters, and painted on initially roughened down and painted on while it's fresh, and then put outside my studio in the elements for a period of time, then brought back in, then reworked, and then that sort of went on for a number of years, and I put it to one side, and then gradually built and built and built upon it to its final form. And I think for me, that's what's so pleasant about the small paintings, in that given their size and given their sort of area, it doesn't force me into spending so much time
Yeah. It's
on
a serious
one
level
project.
of commitment that you're putting into one piece.
Yeah.
This
But
is a little close-up of that larger painting that you have in the RHA, and
Yeah.
you can see the intricate details that you have gone to create
And
the realism in this, which is stunning.
And you can just see as well the oxidization, that patina that's coming in through the pink, that natural patina. Just sort of, so I left the plate open in some areas, so it's discolored and distorted. So this sort of pink plays with the green in a really interesting way.
Yeah.
Sort of vibrates almost.
Yeah,
that's very cool. This is your the poster for the RHA exhibition for the 195th annual exhibition. And do you have information on that? When does that open?
It opens on the 26th, Monday the 26th, and I think runs until August, but you'd need to check that. I'm not entirely sure. So I head over to Dublin for the opening next Sunday, which would be nice for the day.
Brilliant. Well, make sure you do check that out, folks. If you're in Dublin, go to the RHA and check out that work by Robert and all of the amazing works that are available to view there.
But getting back to the smaller stuff, what drew you? Because you do the clouds, which is obviously it could be very maximalist, but then the little portraits, why did you decide to shift that to a very small way of representing people?
Well, I guess I became very interested in the history of miniature portraits. I was speaking to somebody about this the other day. Miniature portraits were tended to be done for sort of the great and the good, and they were given to somebody or painted of some baron or whatever, some lord or his ladyship, and they were kept in the collection and then passed around, or they would go with them on journeys and jaunts. And I suppose for me it became quite interesting that we have these phones that we carry around, and they've got tiny images on them all the time. And the idea of then returning to this small scale at the moment is quite interesting in itself. People tend to have smaller and smaller houses and smaller spaces to have to live in and work in. The idea of doing portraits on a grand scale is lovely, but practicality wise, it's quite difficult. And I suppose it allows me to paint many more people than I normally would. I traditionally would take a long time over individual portraits, and I might only manage a few per year. But this is the beauty of this, is I can keep moving between lots of little ones as well, and then I can easily post them to people. And the lovely thing about it too, when I head across to Dublin, I'm meeting somebody, and I'm going to have some of these in my pocket, so I can sort of fly over there with an exhibition in my pocket, essentially.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have a little preview of those mini portraits here. There's a small little.
Yeah, that's a recent one that you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that's held in your hand there, just for those who are listening, a tiny portrait that is incredibly detailed, showing an immense reflection of the light, which is really, really beautifully done.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's super.
And if you're into artists' Instagrams, Rob's Instagram is definitely a good one to follow, because he shows his process and the final work. And he does a lot of work because he's dealing with miniatures. There's very frequent updates.
Not unlike yourself, Josh. He's very prolific.
Prolific, for those of us speaking English as our native language.
Prolific is nice though. I like that. That's maybe got a whole new meaning.
You see, I'm all about multi-layering the language of English. I can't even say that sentence. Ridiculous. I bring the stupidity to spill the RT as always.
No.
You
bring a certain Eamonness to everything, and we love you for it.
Eamonness. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate that. But you've loads of work available on your Instagram channel. And where do people go to get that information?
Well, probably best to just see on Instagram. I post up links to places. I'm having a solo exhibition in Care Arts in Tipperary in October this year. Cool. So that would be a place to see these things, the large works and the small works, all in one place.
Amazing. And do check him out on Instagram at Robert Jackson Art. And you have a website too, don't you, Rob?
I do. It's r-jackson.com.
Brilliant, brilliant. And of course, you can see all of his work on Newa Collective at newacollective.com too,
Thank you.
/Robert Jackson. And there's loads of work there for you to see. And there's also previous interviews with Rob and lots of other material for you to check out too. So do keep in touch with Rob and see all of his prolific and prolific work. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see Josh's reaction. If you're listening in on our podcast channels, he's just bowing his head in, oh dear God.
Just shake your head and say, bless his heart, and move
Bless
on.
his little heart. Oh, bless his little heart. I'm afraid that's all we have time for on our first anniversary episode. But Robert, thank you so much for joining us to celebrate with us on our very special day. And for all of you viewers at home, and listeners, of course, be sure to check out all of our past episodes across all of our podcast channels and share them with your friends, your family, your enemies, whoever you want. It doesn't really matter. Just get it out there.
You want to piss somebody off? Send them our
Perfect.
podcast.
Send them to our earlier episodes where we had very little refinement. But the guests were still fabulous and we love them, and maybe we might bring them back again just to show how big we've grown. That's all we have time for, folks, but thank you very much for joining us on this year anniversary journey that we've done.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much, Rob. Until next time, start spilling some tea. Bye.
Bye-bye.